going back to Brian's comments, there's no downstream users, other than aquatic life and the Atlantic Ocean. If you were in the Mississippi River in Minneapolis, when you discharge water there, there's a lot of downstream users. In fact, by the time it gets to New Orleans, it's been used 13 times or something like that by the time you drink it in New Orleans. So downstream users are important to put the water back in a stream where you have downstream users. We don't have any, so we want to take our water to drinking water standards for a real selfish reason. It wasn't because we were worried about the world's water supply, and it wasn't because we were worried about how we would clean up Chesapeake Bay. Every 5 years we get a new permit, and every 5 years that new permit has something new in it. And going back to the fact we have to run these plants 24/7, 365 days a year, when we have to make a major upgrade, we've got to do it while the plane's flying. So the plant has to operate, has to meet permit, we have to do a major upgrade. And we're doing them all the time, and they're getting more and more expensive, and the standards are getting tighter and tighter. And so as we were doing a long-term scenario planning for this region, for wastewater, we said, what do we need to be looking at 100 years from now? And the thing that came up in every scenario was the fact we're going to invest a lot of money to upgrade our plants multiple times to deal with new emerging contaminants and other issues as we move forward. And so selfishly, we just said, well, if we take it to drinking water, there's nothing else they can make us do to it. And we don't challenge regulators. But we really think if we treat it to drinking water standards, that's as much as they can ask us to do. But if we do that, we end up with a very valuable resource. And that's when we started scratching our heads saying, well, what do we do with it? Why don't we just hook it right to the pipes in Virginia Beach and send it out to your homes? Well, Virginia Beach has a lot of investment in water infrastructure, including that pipeline from Lake Gaston. That would just abandon all that infrastructure. That's a lost cost for the region. So there's no reason to direct pipe it to folks. You've already got water coming to your houses. That's great. But as we were looking around, we learned, we didn't know this at the time, about the groundwater shortage. And so, because 80% of our customers don't depend on groundwater, we're not focused on it, we learned from DEQ that this aquifer, and I'll talk a lot more about it, is being depleted faster than it can recharge. And so suddenly there was this great green light, hey, if we put the water back in the ground, treat it drinking water, put it in the ground, we might be able to solve some problems. And so that's really the first piece. So it was regulatory stability, selfish on our part. We just wanted to not have to worry about upgrading our plants over and over again over the next 100 years. If we do that, we're not discharging 90% of the water we do today to the bay. And when I said we meet exacting permit standards, very small milligrams per liter of nitrogen and phosphorus. Those are the problems in the bay, right? Nitrogen and phosphorus, nutrient load to the bay, causing all the problems. Well known or probably well kept secret, our treatment plants were never designed to remove nutrients. That was not on the radar screen when our plants were made. The Clean Water Act passed in 1972, no one was talking about nutrients. And so we have to do serious upgrades to our plants to remove nutrients, so we've done a lot of that. So we already are down to very small quantities of nitrogen and phosphorus, but you think, very small quantity, but 150 million gallons a day is what we treat and discharge. So even in very small quantities, that adds up to lots of pounds each year. And so the way the bay cleanup set up is they allocate each discharger some pounds and say, you've got this many pounds that you can discharge, and if you do that, the bay's got natural ability to assimilate that load. And so they aggregated everybody's load. So wastewater, stormwater, farms, everybody that puts water in the bay ended up getting put into this model with a load, and we got our own load, and I'll show you how that works. But if we take 90% of the water that we're currently discharging and put it in the ground, suddenly we don't need all that, and the bay gets cleaner faster, or we can even trade some of it potentially to help some other sectors out. So let's talk about that in a minute. So the two issues are, we got to treat the drinking water quality. Not rocket science. I'd like to say it was, it really isn't. And it's been done across the globe and in the United States. And one of the best kept reuse water secrets is in Northern Virginia, the Upper Occoquan, where they take their wastewater, use it put it in a reservoir. Fairfax County pulls out from that reservoir and sends it to 1 million people a day. So I like to say, they've got great property values, good education, great things going on out there, but they are a little crazy. So maybe drinking water is a problem, but we don't call them that. But it's been done all over the world, and a number of drier climates, you can see really where it heads up. It's usually done because you're running out of water. But that's not hard to do. Put it in the ground. Again, it's done, aquifer abundance done across the country, across the world. Many places do storage and recovery. The city of Chesapeake's got a big storage and recovery system here. So if you're driving down 58, it's right near the airport down there, you can kind of see it. You wouldn't know what you're looking at. But they take drinking water when they have excess capacity, and they put it in the ground. And what's interesting about this aquifer, it acts just like a storage tank. The water doesn't move very far from where they put it, and when they need the water again, they just pull it right back out and send it in. So they're using the ground as an infrastructure, a storage tank. Chesapeake's been doing that successfully for many, many years. Only issues for us, so you'll hear about aquifer recharge in other parts of the country where it's not into a drinking water aquifer. So similar to our wastewater that's discharged into local rivers, we match the water quality. Florida, they do a lot of deep water injection with their wastewater. But those aren't drinking water aquifers. They're already way too salty for anyone to drink out of. So they don't treat the water to drinking water standards when they put it in. So you'll hear some mixed messages around aquifer recharge. Ours is a drinking water aquifer. We need to treat the drinking water standards, and we're doing it. So quickly on the blueprint on the nutrient issues, we're killing it. The wastewater sector is leading the way. These are all quotes from Chesapeake Bay blueprint. So it's not words we've said, but we're actually at our 2025 goal as a sector. So if you think of all the wastewater in Virginia, we were already down below what we need to be at for 2025. So we're really doing what we need to do. And one of the reasons we're doing that is because the state came up with a lot of money to help. So you didn't pay for it all. We got grants to pay for about 60% of it that came from the state to make that happen. And so Virginia's done a great job. The wastewater sector's done a great job. We're cruising. Unfortunately, it's not the same for stormwater and agriculture. Let me show you what this looks like for us. So this is just nitrogen, just in the James River. And so back in 2011, we had an allocation of around 6 million pounds. So we could discharge from all of our plants, and we've got 7 plants that discharge into the James River. We could discharge 6 million pounds of nitrogen a year. Sounds like a lot, but it was down from about 9 we were at prior to that. Give you an idea of how fast regulations change. 2006, Virginia, believe it or not, gets out ahead of nutrient load to the bay. Unbelievable. Remember, we were the old mini. We studied a lot of stuff. We take our time. We got out ahead, passed some laws, and said by 2011, we had to come down to certain numbers that the state set. Ours was 6 million pounds. Based on the Bay model, Virginia took the lead. The TMDL, total maximum daily load, which EPA passed for the Chesapeake Bay for the 6 states that are in it, DC, happened in 2010. So our first year of compliance, remember these are big construction projects to do this at our treatment plants. 2006, state passes a law, says you got to get down to a certain level. We start building projects, and before we have to comply with that law, we get new limits put in the TMDL. So the new limits show up in 2 phases, as the purple and blue lines. So it takes us from our 6 million pounds to 4.5 million down to 3.5 by 2022. So the blocks all represent investments we've made. Most of those are in the $100 million range for each one of those blocks to make nutrient upgrades at our plants. The scary thing was when the TMDL came out, the EPA, again, it really sets limits for wastewater, so point sources, stormwater, runoff from urban stormwater, and agriculture. They took those 3 areas and said you all have to reduce your nitrogen and phosphorus to certain levels. But EPA in 2010, when they came out, they said, we're not confident that those other 2 areas are going to get to their numbers. And so if they don't, we're going to force you down to this level. And the difference between the red line and the yellow line, our estimate, is somewhere about $1 billion of additional investment. So what's nice is just by chance, by doing SWIFT, we only need about 500,000 pounds because 90% of the water is going on the ground, about 10% is going to go into the local waterways. Seriously reduces our load from, this is what the bay would be clean with, this is what we only need. That 3 million extra can be used for other things. Quickly, relative cost, I talked about stormwater, agriculture, and point source wastewater. So the yellow bars, that's stormwater retrofit. So Virginia Beach, just announced a multi-billion-dollar stormwater program that isn't designed on water quality. It's designed to keep your neighborhoods from flooding after Matthew, right? They're going to make a lot of investments. But it's not investments to remove nitrogen and phosphorus from stormwater that goes out. Those are those ponds you see all over the community with every new development. There's other new technologies to do that, but it's very expensive. And cities have a hard time because they don't own that much land. So you go to a city that actually has to do this, to build ponds, to remove nutrients, takes land to make that happen. You got to buy land, you got to find land, you got to use schools. So it's rare. It's about the most expensive is stormwater retrofit, from removing a pound of nitrogen from Chesapeake Bay. Over here on this side are green areas. These are all agricultural practices. So forested buffers, buffers around farm fields, conservation tillage, land retirement, cover crops. These are all very inexpensive ways to get nitrogen out of the Chesapeake Bay. The difference on these two ends of the spectrum, the blue is where we are. We're somewhere in the $50 to $100 per pound for most of the pounds we remove. Agriculture is not regulated. EPA cannot force agriculture to do any of these things. We're heavily regulated and stormwater is somewhat regulated. So where do they put all their attention is in the regulated sector. And the interesting part is we're not even the biggest piece. So if you look at where agriculture is the largest contributor of nutrients to the Chesapeake Bay, and we're down in that lower area there in the brown. So we're doing our part, doing a good job. You're paying the bill to make it happen. Everyone that's connected to HRSD is really leading the way in cleaning up Chesapeake Bay. But keep in mind the very expensive pounds for urban stormwater. So what we did with that 3 million pounds we're freeing up in the James River, that's this number, and there's comparable numbers for the York River, and then these are phosphorus numbers on this side. So actually phosphorus is down below. This is what the region needs from stormwater. Doesn't seem like big numbers, right? There's compared to what we're freeing up. But that's $1 billion, $1.5 billion investment aggregate for the 11 communities that have permits for stormwater. The reductions they'd have to make, the improvements they'd have to do to get those pounds out, were estimated by the Planning District Commission